We have plenty about areas in the country that are not connected to fibre, to broadband, fibre broadband. And there's about 10% of the country that isn't connected. And fibre optic lines connect you to the street cabinet somewhere. Otherwise, it's copper cables that connect you to the cabinet. However, it's not simply a matter of there being a connectivity problem for particular geographical areas. What's happened is BT has stopped servicing and providing traditional telephones. So traditional telephones now are only connectable via fibre optics and via the internet. So that old mechanical tradition has died. Now, what happens if you belong to an area of a town which is otherwise equipped with fibre optics, but your particular street or your particular house is not? There's a flat that I know in Daventry, and just down the road from where I am, and they can't get fibre optics. BT can't get close enough to install them. And so they are left with no access to the internet and very poor access to any form of telephone cabling because it's not provided anymore. So how do they function? We've been funneled into a channel of fibre optics which is frankly insecure, unreliable, and often cannot be reached. And it's like being ghosted or blacklisted if you say that this isn't possible. I went to teach in a school not so long ago, and I had enormous difficulty getting hold of broadband in the house where I was living. Enormous difficulty. In the end, I had to resort to some strange thing which I got through some sort of wireless receptor, and it was very poor quality. That is available. But when your internet connection, when your web browsing connection, and when your telephone is based on something which is insecure, and if there's an electrical outage, that's it, you're in the dark. And you have no way of contacting anybody. In the past, even during a power cut, and I remember the power cuts in the early 1970s, I remember them vividly, and I remember making telephone calls in the dark. And it was a way of staying in touch. And particularly with elderly people, it's a way of staying in touch. And these fibre optic cables, everything runs through 2 or 3 specific points to get to our country. We are very vulnerable, I think. And an electrical outage, a serious electrical outage across the country, would be a real disaster, leaving us with no form of communication. And that, I think, is worrying. We can't even go down the street and use a telephone box, or indeed a police box, if you want to reference Doctor Who. We are stuck, and we are so dependent. Everything runs through the internet. And banks, I was talking to a bank the other day, and they were asking me, pleading with me to get an app, which I don't particularly want. I don't like apps. I don't like the idea of an app. And I don't like my life dependent on a phone, which can be stolen, as indeed it was. And then because I don't know my EMEI number, it's very difficult to get insurance to pay out. It's very difficult to prove that I have a phone because you don't take photographs of your own phone. And I've searched and searched for my receipts, which I can't find, oddly. And because I've been through various phone companies, and because the phone companies don't keep records of their former clients, it's very difficult to get that information that way. It's quite a runaround, and I could say with my hand on my heart which phone companies you should definitely not talk to. O2 is right at the top of the list, and unfortunately For a long time I was with Virgin, and then Virgin was taken over by O2, which I had formerly left. So, you get put back into the same pot. And O2 have only got records going back to the point at which they were which they took over Virgin. There is madness in this record keeping. 3, don't have records because I've left the company. That's why I left, because their record keeping, their bureaucracy was poor. And, you would think when you take out insurance that you would be covered, but you're not covered because you have to find proof that you have the phone, and that is dependent on a receipt, and that receipt would be dependent on an email. But I've since changed my email and cannot access the previous one. So you see the problem. We are dependent on systems which impose themselves on us, which bully us, and which, when they choose, we cannot access. And it is quite the most frustrating system. And you pay I pay quite a lot of insurance, and I expect slightly better treatment than I've received. O2 sent me off to their O2 shop in Rugby, 2 miles walking. And when I got near it, I realised there wasn't an O2 shop in sight. And I called them, and another agent told me, no, the O2 shop has closed down in Rugby. I should have checked with Google before I set out. Utter arrogance. Utter arrogance. So that's what you get with O2. Vodafone don't pick up the phone. 3 don't keep records. What should you use? EE? I don't know.